Hi, Jerry.
Well, hello there, Mr. Mitchell Gold. How are you today?
I am not awesome today, but I'm pretty darn good.
Well, that's pretty good, considering that we're now into the third interview of a total of four, which are going to explore your ideas about how Occupy Wall Street can be improved with some of the concepts that you've been working on over a number of years. I'd like to have you recap for us, if you would, our last two conversations, where you think we're going to be going today, and where you think our last interview will head to.
Okay, well, to summarize the first two, we talked about the notion of economics, ethics, energy, and health, the four E's, as I said. And then in the first day, we talked about in the area of economics, we talked about banking. We talked about the necessity of having information technology platform. We also talked about having human resources, having them bankable. We can bank our human resources, and then we also talked about banking other resources. That was all in the economics area. Um,
Correct. Correct.
then we talked about a little bit about the standards that we use and how do people put ideas into the system, like the ethics of how do you put something into a system, how do you evaluate it, how you use the ISO 26000 in a legal way, and then how do we grant permission to use the idea within the Occupy movement, because this is has to be done in a very ethical manner. Um, and and today we are here to talk about the aspects of energy. And in the area of energy, we talk about how we use media, education, networking with positive people as opposed to just anybody, and how we all these things sort of come together as an efficient um, organization.
Well, you mentioned ISO 26000, which I think could use a little bit of elaboration on your part. And what I see is it's almost like an open source way of being able to put these principles to work, where everybody contributes, everybody benefits, and somehow or another the system itself is rewarded. Am I correct in that?
100% on, but I didn't make it clear that in our systems, because I only had so much time, in our systems, when people put their goods and services into our system, either in their personal capacity or in goods or service goods that they have, these are become bankable and usable by the system. For example, you would have a rate that you would charge for your time, and you put that into our system and you donate to Occupy Cafe your time, but you get paid in our trading currency. So you don't do this for free. You're doing this, yes, but you get paid for doing your interview and putting it um, onto the WGRN network.
Would
And
this would, would this also work in the Occupy Everywhere group that I have on LinkedIn?
absolutely, it works everywhere. All of our stuff are universally, all our ideas are universally applicable.
And therefore a universal currency.
Exactly. We're developing a global currency based on human efforts. I mean, when people talk about it and they set up barter systems, but nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody. The Ithaca dollar that is referenced in the film by the cultural creatives, they talk about uh, a person's individual value as a currency. There,
Well, I'm a little confused because I can't see how Goldman Sachs is going to benefit from this.
oh,
That's a joke, by the way.
well, no. Goldman Sachs will benefit from this too. They're
In an ethical fashion.
absolutely. They have to mitigate the risks. This is,
I
but
see.
we become a hedge for them because nobody's going to want to do business with those people. I mean, the reason you said it was a joke is because no one wants to do business with Goldman Sachs, except for the people that operate under the FIG principle.
What is that principle?
fear, ignorance, greed, and guilt.
Okay. That's a little bit like the early days of Microsoft when they had what they call the FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Am I correct?
I'm not that familiar with the initial parts of the Microsoft. All I do know that their modus operandi was built in what's called the war room. Bill Gates used to bring the people together in the war room.
Well, that tells you about the context for everything. So go back to what you're talking about, because as an Occupy Wall Street supporter, and by putting on this radio program called 15 Minutes of Fact so that people can hear facts as opposed to someone else's descriptions of them, it's important from the mouths of people who are doing things like you are to state clearly what the purpose is and what the results intended are. So what's your purpose and what are your intended results?
Well, my purpose right now and of this interview is to demonstrate the value of knowledge and information. That becomes education. That's the educational component of the Wall Street movement. And how we use the other aspects of how do we get that information and education out to people in the community. And the Occupy Cafe is a perfect vehicle for doing that. But prior to the education process, we need to realize that Marshall McLuhan talked about the converging of all media. He didn't identify converging of all media as much as he talked about the different notions of all media. This is pre-internet days, because McLuhan, while he was a brilliant communicator and all the schools of marketing and media are use McLuhan's isms and his ideas, but we're in a new world here, because a new perception of media, because all media is going to converge in our mobile phone. And in this convergence, we will be getting our education from it. We'll be getting our internet access. We will be exchanging money through our phone. We will be trading Homeplanet trading units through our phone. So I can send you trading units through the phone for this interview.
I'm following that, but we're also talking about theory as opposed to actual reality, because I don't remember looking at my bank account and finding any of these trade units. So when can we expect this to happen?
Well, the technology is in place today. Apple has already experimented with the application, and I believe it's Nokia has already got one of its phones that uses the particular capacity that we're talking about in their phones. Of course, it's not in all phones yet, but let's note where we are in time. We're in 2012, and this quarter they will produce 400 million smartphones. The smartphones are the phones that will enable what I'm talking about.
Got it. Okay, so the smartphone that I have, I will be able to say I want to have a conversation with someone on WGRN and interview them, and I'm going to charge, say, $500.
500 trading units for your time.
Okay, great. Let me put that in the language that we need to use now. So 500 trading units, and I'm talking to somebody, and I hang up the phone. Then what happens?
Okay, well, you will also have to pay them for their time, and WGRN is going to be the network where the money will flow to, because people are going to, that come on to WGRN through their smartphone, will transfer some Homeplanet trading units into the WGRN radio account.
So WGRN basically becomes the paymaster?
Well, no, everyone's their own paymaster, but they will, if we build their network through the Occupy Cafe movement, they will get, every time someone comes to listen to their radio program, they will get some trading units. They will become very wealthy.
So the fortunate listeners right now who are getting 15 Minutes of Fact basically for free in the future may find themselves needing to have trade units or to subscribe to this? Is that it?
I suspect they will want to have them. And the reason that energy and information is always flowing from A to B, and what our trading units will facilitate that flow and will acknowledge the trade of knowledge and information. So the idea is that nobody should really get really wealthy from these things. So when we are organizing for WGRN, which is what Occupy is doing and what you're doing, you're providing all this free to WGRN. WGRN is going to have our nodes, and I say our nodes, Occupy Cafe nodes or World Peace Posse nodes, which to me they're interchangeable. Those nodes will be in every city of America first, and then around the world in all the Occupy markets. And people will tune in to our Occupy program, because Occupy program will be putting out information and facts according to the way you are designing it yourself.
Okay, I'm following this so far, and I'm reminiscing to my Star Trek days. What makes this any different from the units that they used to talk about on Star Trek, where they didn't trade in dollars anymore? They had something called units.
Well, I don't recall the specifics of the Star Trek metaphor, but I would assume it's very similar.
I would think so, yes.
It's like any barter arrangement. The notion that something is free is really a misnomer. You know, like Facebook started off as being free, and it is free, except you give up a lot of your sovereignty when you sign into a Facebook.
Right.
There's many people go to Facebook and I'm sorry, you can't, you've got 5,000 people, you can't have any more. They control how many. So,
okay.
And why do they do that? Well, because they want to control you. Facebook is an old paradigm processes that is taking our freedoms away from us, and they're going to go public shortly and realize $10 billion.
Well, how would this be separated from that? What makes this a new paradigm? And again, why can't people get rich at this?
Well, the people ought to be able to get rich, but the notion behind this is a desire to share.
Which means we are now ready to complete this 15-minute segment by you telling us exactly what that's going to be and prepare us for the fourth and final segment, which will take place in tomorrow, and of course segment number 4.
Okay. Well, the fourth segment will really it's about health, and we talk about first we need to look after our seniors, the older people, and because you and I are older.
Yeah, I like that part. I really like that part.
Yeah, but it's not just because of our health. It's because of what we know. You and I know so much, and we need to share it. So we need, and not only us, where we need to go is we need to start going into what's called sustainable agriculture. We need to start. People need to understand that GMOs and all that stuff is not the route to go for GMOs will not help us.
That I can echo. So what is your completion thought for today?
So the completion thought is really the implementation process. How do we implement all these ideas? We need to have a process for implementing these ideas.
And you are going to be providing that tomorrow, is that correct?
Well, I will give us some insights into that, yes.
Well, that sounds okay, good. You're going to make us work a little bit, which is deserved, because this is an intellectual construct that has to have feet put on it, and that requires a lot of capable people. So on that note, Mr. Mitchell Gold, I want to thank you so much for spending time with 15 Minutes of Fact, and I look forward to our next dialogue.
I too.
Thanks so much.
That's a fact.
That's a fact. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.